If you're into going fast, popping wheelies, and doing backflips, today's video is for you. We have the Outcast and the Kraton in the 4S BLX models. We've taken a look at the 6S BLX models in the past with the Senton, the Kraton, and the Outcast, but today we're taking a look at the 4S Outcast and Kraton. If you're familiar with the larger 6S BLX Outcast and Kraton, then these trucks would be pretty similar to you. They are less expensive, but feature nearly the same performance. So what we have though is out of the box, both of these are ready to run trucks. They're assembled. They include a transmitter. It's the Spektrum STX2. It does not have AVC on this transmitter, but it does feature that 3-position throttle limiter switch. For those transmitters, to complete the models, you will need 4 AA batteries, and then you will need a battery pack for the trucks. You can use either two cells to make up that 4-cell, or you can use a single 4-cell or a single 3-cell LiPo battery. And when using that 4-cell LiPo, ARRMA says that these trucks will hit 50 plus miles an hour, which is mighty impressive. So we tried it. We went out and used a 4-cell LiPo. We used this ProTech 120C 6500 milliamp pack. These are the same packs that we used in the Super Rock Ray that we tested from Losi. So these batteries have tons of punch. We first tried the Kraton and we did only one pass. It was the very first pass. The truck hit 54 miles an hour. Next, we used the Outcast. Now the Outcast wants to wheelie a lot, so we needed a much further stretch of road to get up to speed. So it took us quite a few passes, but eventually once we got to it, we also hit 54 miles an hour on the Outcast. Performance and top speed wasn't an issue at all with these trucks. The Kraton was a lot easier to put the pedal down and hit those top speeds a lot sooner, faster, and a much shorter stretch of road, although the Outcast can do it no problem as well, but it needs a little bit more finesse, throttle control, and just more room. Let's take a look at those electronics really quick. So inside the truck, again, this is a 4S capable machine. Our ESC right here is the BLX 120, 120 amp ESC. Of course, it is 3-cell or 4-cell. So on our connectors, that's why we have 2 connectors. To hit that 4-cell limit, you can use 2 2-cells. You can also just use a single 3-cell or a single 4-cell. Now, however you want to do it, there is one thing to note, in that if you want to use a single battery, you will need a little plug like this, and unfortunately, neither of these models included one. So we bought a 2-pack, the ProTech 2-pack of female EC5s, and then just ran a jumper with some spare wire that we had laying around. But you will need to make one of these if you want to use a single LiPo battery. Now for our motor here, this is brushless and sensorless. It's the BLX 3668, and I believe it's a 2400 kV motor. The last piece of electronics here is our ARRMA servo. It's the ADS 15M. It has metal gears. It puts out like 190 inches of torque at 6 volts, but it is rather slow. And the servo saver in both of these models is designed to be pretty loose, so the steering reaction is a little sluggish, but it's done intentionally so that under heavy impact, the servo doesn't strip out too badly. Some other really cool features inside this chassis though are these big old walls right here that once you put the body on, the walls and the body kind of encapsulate inside the chassis, so it just stays a little bit cleaner from debris. Going down the center of our chassis down here, not the red thing, but down below that, there is a center drive shaft down there. Now, it is a plastic and spline drive shaft that actually comes out pretty easily since it's splined. There's a spring inside that's always pushing the 2 pieces away from them, connecting them to each of the gearboxes. If you want to take the drive shaft out, you just pinch it together and kind of pull it out. It's pretty dang easy, and once you do, if you need to adjust the slipper, you can get to it on the back side by just getting your wrench into the outdrive. It was really easy to do, and in fact, we needed to do it on our Kraton because it seemed a little loose, so we tightened it up, and it probably only took us about 5 minutes to get in there, do it, and put everything back together. All of the remaining drive shafts on this truck in the front and in the back are also plastic. Again, they are splined and they seem to hold up really well. I don't see any wear, there wasn't any slipping. It's pretty impressive how durable they are for being plastic. Now this big old red brace is really interesting. So this is a brace connecting the front and rear ends of this truck, but even cooler than that is up front here, it is somewhat of a shock absorber to absorb any chassis impact, like when you lawn dart, for instance. So watch this area right here. I'm gonna try to flex the chassis. See it flexing in there? Look how cool that is. That is a really nice addition to take any of that extra energy during impact, especially if you're lawn darting or doing anything in that respect. That little shock absorber is gonna help out quite a bit. Now, if we look on the back side, it is a plastic molded chassis, so any flex is gonna transfer through the chassis and then through that top brace pretty effectively, making this setup really effective as a basher. Now, quickly moving on to some other things, we do have a metal motor plate back here to help dissipate heat. On the motor, there's this huge heat sink with a fan that's connected to the ESC, so when it's powered on, the fan just automatically comes on. All four corners, we have adjustable turnbuckles, and then lastly, our shocks here are plastic shocks, and they are not threaded. Aluminum shocks, so they're kind of old school style where if you want to change your ride height, you'll have to pull the spring down and then put a clip inside there, and there are extra clips included. Of course, you could just pull those clips out to lower your ride height. Nevertheless, the plastic shocks are especially smooth. I was really impressed, and after inspecting the Outcast and the Kraton, neither of them had any leaky shocks. That's 8 shocks, as well as the diffs. Neither truck had leaky diffs. This is the wheel wrench that is included with the models. It's kind of this cool plastic design. It keys together. It's kind of nifty to have 2 different sizes here. But anyways, you key this together and you can use this as your wheel wrench. Well, the wheel nuts are an 8mm, so that's kind of uncommon. Usually for 10 scale, it's like a 7mm. So you're definitely gonna need an 8mm nut wrench. That's important. This just stripped out for me. I couldn't get it to work. It was mentioned earlier that on the Armored Kraton, we tightened up the slipper. When we first went out and used it, it seemed to just not have the power delivery. It was slipping and it wasn't receiving all the power. After we tightened it up, everything was fine and dandy, but at some point during the day, we actually blew out a tire. The glue beads separated from the wheel really clean. The rubber did not tear or rip off the wheel, so it looks like we should be able to re-glue and repair this tire pretty easily and it'll be all right. Now, once this happened, we just went off and changed the tires. These are the Sweep Road Crushers. These are belted tires. We've done a video on these in the past. So once we changed the tires on this truck, it's worked great. We haven't had any issues with it other than that. One last issue was with the Outcast. We were out front with our little ramp and we were just doing some simple small backflips. Well, on one of the landings, it didn't land quite right and the tire took off. The bearing popped out of the hub, the hex came off the axle, and then the hex pin fell out of the axle too, and all those parts went flying. Now, nothing broke, but we did bend this turnbuckle back here. We found all the parts that were missing and we put it back together, and it was just the wheel nut had actually loosened and just popped off. After we put it all together, we haven't had so much issues, although when I checked the rest of the wheel nuts on the model, they were just a little bit loose. But a good recommendation is to pick up some of those extra wheel nuts if you're interested in getting this truck. I have a few of those on hand. So pretty minor things, unless you kind of lose those parts and you can't find them and then you need to go buy them again. That's always frustrating. But other than that, these trucks were pretty dialed. They take a lot of abuse. They smashed into a lot of things and crashed hard, and they just kind of bounced back from it. The Outcast and the Kraton, they're pretty much the exact same truck. The only physical difference in terms of performance is going to be the length of the chassis. The Outcast has a shorter chassis, so it pops wheelies a lot easier It gives it more momentum when doing backflips. The Kraton with the longer chassis tends to stay flatter so you can put the power down. That's why in our speed test we didn't need a long stretch of road to get up to speed, where on the Outcast we did. That short chassis just wants to pop the front tires up pretty much the whole time. Even driving along in motion, you could do a standing backflip and get it to get back on its wheels. Aside from those different chassis though, the only differences are styling. You've got different bodies, they come with different tires and wheels, and then they have different wings on the back, and then of course they have different wheelie bars. So in conclusion, if you want to pop wheelies for days and easy backflips, the Outcast is going to be the model for you. Now the Kraton will pop wheelies, but not like the Outcast. But with that longer chassis, it allows you to drive just a bit more aggressively, a bit harder, a bit faster, having all the wheels on the ground. It'll still do some wheelies, but it's not as maintainable as the Outcast, and you can just wheelie all the way down the road. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. If you want any more information, we'll have some links down there, and if you have any questions or comments, leave a comment down below for us. I'm Brett with A-Main Hobbies. Thanks for watching.
I want to see the video. Did it biff it?
Yeah.
How bad? I got a tire from it.
Yeah. Same day delivery.
Same day delivery says. That's crazy. No problem, job. Good day.
You too.